Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, well, we're tackling something really profound. It's about courage. The most extreme pressure imaginable.
Hmm.
We're diving into the writings of Bhagat Singh, penned in 1930 while he was in Lahore Central Jail, actually waiting for his execution.
That's right.
The specific work is his, frankly, stunning philosophical essay, Why I Am an Atheist.
It really is remarkable.
And our mission today really is to get why this is so much more than just, a memoir. It's this incredibly reasoned defense written just before he died for the Lahore conspiracy case.
And that context, the timing, it's just crucial, isn't it? This wasn't something dashed off later for scholars. It was an immediate, defiant response.
A response to what exactly?
Well, he wrote it because fellow prisoners, political prisoners, and the jail authorities were essentially harassing him. They were calling him vain, arrogant, basically godless, pressuring him to pray, find some kind of solace in faith as the end approached.
Wow. So facing death and intense ideological pressure all at once. And it seems historians really value this particular piece of writing.
Oh, absolutely. They see it as one of the most intellectually solid, consistent pieces from the entire independence movement. It shows this immense moral, philosophical courage.
How so?
Well, think about it. Choosing to stick purely to reason, to principle, when faith, that ultimate comfort, was right there, just a prayer away. It's this act of incredible intellectual integrity under, well, the ultimate duress.
Okay, so let's trace that journey. Because he's quite clear in the essay, isn't he? He didn't start out as an atheist.
Not at all.
Yeah.
He actually details his own transformation, describes himself early on as a romantic idealist, a believer. His father's friends apparently called him a true patriot.
That starting point really highlights the change then. What was the trigger?
He says his ideas really started to shift radically after joining the Revolutionary Party. And the reason? That involvement meant he had to study revolutionary literature.
Which involved...
Well, diving deep into science, scientific methods, sociology, history, it wasn't just about political tactics.
So being a revolutionary for him demanded rigorous intellectual work, not just action. It forced him to confront his beliefs.
Exactly. This new reading gave him analytical tools that just fundamentally changed his perspective. He puts his finger right on the central crisis, the one many rational thinkers grapple with.
Which is?
How do you square the idea of an almighty, benevolent God with the sheer amount of poverty, misery, and injustice you see everywhere? If God is all-powerful and all-good, why does the world look like this?
Right, a classic philosophical problem, but felt very personally by him. And he also had to defend himself personally, didn't he, against that charge of arrogance.
They were using it as a way to dismiss his ideas, basically, calling him vain for his atheism.
How do you respond?
He tackles it head-on, says, I deny it. My disbelief in God is not sprung from vanity. It's the outcome of rational thinking. It's fascinating. He separates the conclusion, atheism, from the ego his critics wanted to pin on him.
So it wasn't about feeling superior.
No, it was simply the logical result, as he saw it, of his investigation.
Okay. So he lays that foundation. How does he then connect this rationalism, this atheism, to the actual revolutionary work? That takes us to his core arguments, right?
Yes, and that first argument is incredibly bold, that religion actually makes a person weak.
Weak how? That seems counterintuitive to some.
Well, his logic is sharp here. He argues religion teaches you to depend on some supernatural power for help, for comfort, for forgiveness, whatever. It's like a crutch.
A supernatural crutch distracting from real-world action.
Precisely. And a real revolutionary, in his view, has to reject that dependence. You need self-reliance, agency.
Because revolution demands taking responsibility yourself.
Exactly. You have to believe change comes from human action, human shoulders. If you're waiting for God to fix things, you'll never take the radical steps needed to fight oppression. The revolutionary relies on their own strength, their own moral compass, full stop.
He even tackles that common argument for God. The order in the universe implies a designer idea. How can there be order without God?
The design argument. He counters it with, well, just crisp logic. He says, okay, if you say order and beauty prove God exists.
Then what about the opposite?
Right. Then disorder, suffering, chaos, they must logically imply God's absence. Or maybe worse, his indifference.
He sort of flips it, says, look at the mess. If this mess exists, your premise about a benevolent, ordering God is shaky.
It's a powerful way to show the limits of that argument. For Singh, the tangible reality of human suffering clearly outweighed any abstract theological points.
And what really comes through is that this wasn't just abstract logic for him. It was deeply tied to human dignity. He dismisses heaven and hell pretty bluntly, doesn't he?
He does. Calls them imaginary comforts invented by man to escape suffering in the present life. Just psychological escape routes.
So the choosing atheism was about
Yeah.
facing reality?
Yes, exactly. Consistency with reason and human dignity. Facing life as it is, the good and the terrible, without what he saw as a psychological crutch.
And that honesty, that commitment, leads to some really powerful statements about why he fights. There's that incredible quote.
Ah, yes. Where he says he fights against oppression and injustice, not for reward in heaven, but because it is right to do so.
Just pause on that. A man facing execution, grounding his entire ethics in rational morality alone, no divine reward, no fear of punishment, just doing what's right.
The conviction is just absolutely, he's ready to face the consequences, whatever they are.
He says he won't beg for mercy, even from God. If God exists and wants to judge him, he'll face his judgment boldly. That's just an astonishing level of commitment to his truth.
It really is. And this is where his personal defense broadens out, becoming this foundational piece for understanding a certain strand of the independence movement. It started redefining the struggle itself.
How did it redefine it? Because most people think of Gandhi, mass civil disobedience. Where does this kind of hard rationalism fit?
Well, historians like Bhupen Chandra point out that Singh saw patriotism differently. For him, it was also about intellectual liberation. Meaning he saw that colonial rule wasn't just political or physical. It was maintained partly through things like fatalism, blind faith, superstition ideas that kept people resigned, passive.
So you had to fight the mental oppression, too. Not just the British administration. Absolutely.
Right.
His goal was explicit. Free the mind before freeing the nation. He understood that if people believe their suffering is just fate or God's will, they won't challenge the human systems causing it. The first front was ideological. Okay, connecting this to the bigger intellectual picture. Where does this rational humanism, as you called it, sit globally and within India?
Globally, sure, he was reading Marx, Bakunin, Lenin thinkers focused on material conditions, class struggle.
Yeah.
But, and this is crucial, it wasn't just imported theory.
He connected it to Indian thought.
Yes, he tapped into India's own rationalist, even skeptical traditions, specifically the Lokayata or Charvaka school of philosophy.
Could you just briefly explain Charvaka for listeners?
Sure. It's one of the ancient materialist schools in India.
Yeah.
They basically rejected scriptures, afterlife, souls, anything beyond empirical evidence and direct perception. Very skeptical, very materialist.
So Singh was grounding his atheism in an ancient Indian lineage, not just Western ideas. Precisely. It showed his stance wasn't alien, it had deep roots. And it all reinforced his main point. Change comes from people, human responsibility, not waiting for divine help. There's that stark quote summing it up.
Religion makes men slaves, and the flip side, revolution demands free minds. It's a powerful call to action. You can't be dependent if you want to be free.
Which explains why someone like Chris Moffat describes Singh's actions, his willingness to die, as political martyrdom without metaphysical consolation. That phrase really captures it.
It does. Dying for the cause, but without any belief in heaven or reward beyond this life. In that deeply religious society under colonial rule, to calmly reject divine comfort while facing death. That was profoundly radical.
He built his revolution purely on reason and courage, setting aside prayer, fate, everything.
Completely. And this framework really stands out when you put it next to Gandhi's.
Right, the obvious comparison. Both wanted freedom, justice, but their engines were totally different.
Absolute vital contrast. Gandhi's politics. Deeply rooted in faith, spiritual morality, satyagraha soul force, Singh's. Grounded entirely in rational ethics, scientific thinking.
So Gandhi appealed to conscience, spirituality.
Yes, the moral conscience of the oppressor, the spiritual strength of the oppressed. Singh appealed to their intellect, their understanding of material conditions.
It just shows the independence movement wasn't one single thing. There were these huge internal debates about how to achieve freedom, even what freedom meant.
Exactly. The difference wasn't just tactics. It was the very basis of their moral worldview.
So fast forward nearly a century. Why should this essay, written by a young revolutionary on death row in 1930, matter to you, the listener, today?
Well, it speaks so directly to challenges we face right now. Think about ideological bubbles, misinformation. Singh's insistence that skepticism is the first step towards progress isn't just history.
It's a call for critical thinking now.
Absolutely. It's a defense of free inquiry. In a world saturated with information, some of it deliberately misleading, that need to question everything, authority, news sources, even our own cherished beliefs is maybe more important than ever.
And if you take that skepticism, that emphasis on reason into the
Yeah.
public sphere, it connects to the idea of scientific temper, doesn't it?
It really does. His conviction that progress relies on reason, evidence, critical thought. It's so fundamental that in India, it's actually written into the Constitution.
Article 51A, right?
That's the one. It calls on citizens to develop scientific temper, humanism, and the spirit of inquiry and reform. It's basically a constitutional mandate echoing Singh's philosophy.
Amazing. A revolutionary's death row philosophy becoming part of the nation's civic duty. It demands rationality in public life.
Yes, applying reason to everything, from policy debates to public health. It's a mandate against just accepting dogma or fate.
Ultimately, though, the lesson feels bigger than just belief or non-belief. It seems to be about intellectual honesty, moral courage.
That's the core takeaway, I think. His refusal to trade his truth for comfort, even facing the gallows. That's a timeless lesson in integrity. It's why he still inspires people. It's that fusion of passion for justice with a really sharp, critical mind. Idealism, but backed by hard analysis.
So we've traced this incredible journey from idealist believer to rationalist atheist, using that atheism to argue against dependence, framing it all as intellectual liberation, choosing reason over solace, right up to the end.
And he leaves us with that final, really provocative idea. Singh suggested that if an almighty existed, he'd likely admire the courage of those who challenge him, who wrestle with the hard questions.
More than those who just blindly kneel, that was his assertion. So if knowledge really demands we challenge our assumptions, our comforts, Bhagat Singh's story kind of compels you to ask, what long-held belief, what comfortable idea in your life might need questioning? That's definitely something for you to mull over.